Hello! So, I don't know how well you can hear me with this mask on. If it's really quiet, I'll take it off. But this is going to be, the idea is doing a themed stream. So basically, the idea is that what's going to happen is, in the chat, we're going to try and keep topics to spooky things. So, ghost story kind of things, real or fake, mysteries, conspiracy theories, as long as they don't get too political. You know, maybe like real crime stuff. So sort of, if we do a stream featured around those sort of things, what we're going to do is try and, you know, keep it to that. Yep, and don't forget to like the stream, everybody. Woo! Or the ghosts will get you. The Russian sleep project, or Russian sleep experiment's a creepypasta. It's alright, I don't mind it, but it's definitely not real. Yes, Guy, it's meant to be black and white. Well, I tell you what I'm going to have to do, unfortunately, because it's very hard to read the small text with the mask on. I'm going to have to take this off, unfortunately. So my apologies for that. So it'll be a bit less spooky, but you'll just have to deal with that. But then we'll get to doing that. But yeah, urban legends, that would be a good thing to discuss. The idea is that we want to keep this sort of a themed sort of stream, if that makes sense. And don't forget to like the stream, everybody, because not all that many people have liked it yet compared to the amount of viewers. It says we've got 49 viewers on, so that means we can get up to 49 likes, really. It'd be too hot to wear a trench coat. I've got the East German greatcoat would look great for a stream like this, but unfortunately that would just be too hot to wear inside a giant wool coat. I've not got any untold stories about paranormal things, but I can talk briefly about some of the things that I've experienced, because there's not any new ones in a sense, but there are ones that people might want to ask questions about. Is that like ancient Indian burial grounds, Jacob, or is that like more contemporary ones like modern graveyards? I think there's definitely something weird went on at Roswell, but I doubt it was aliens. I imagine the aliens were a cover story for actual military sort of hardware, you know, research. Alright, so the one that I talked about the most, and there's a full video on this, so I won't go into loads of details because there's obviously the actual video for it, But that was the one where there was the really weird occurrences that used to happen when I used to work in an Argos store. And if you're not in the UK, Argos is like a store where you don't have all the items on display on the shop floor. It's basically a shop where you get sort of stuff in a stock room. So the stock room or the warehouse is either underneath the store, like the one I was in, it was in the basement, or you'd have them, in the back of the store or whatever. And the idea is that way you can, reduce the amount of floor space that customers need to see, and, you reduce theft risks and everything like that. And we kept having lots of really weird experiences in there. So you'd keep hearing, like, doors opening and shutting when there wasn't anybody opening and shutting the door. You'd sometimes hear footsteps. Quite often you get really weird smells down there. Like, very strong kind of perfume smells, like incense smells. That was like a quite, often thing you'd get. You keep now and again feeling like you'd seen something out the corner of your eye, and obviously when you went to look, that wouldn't be the thing. We'd get objects move around down there. You'd never consciously see an object move, so you wouldn't be looking at something and it wouldn't, like, fly off a shelf or move. But quite often you'd hear something, like, fall over, then you could go and investigate, and there was an item, in a place it couldn't really have fallen over from unless somebody had, like, thrown it. And we just used to get lots of weird shit like that. Well, sometimes I'd do delivery shifts and we'd get in there at 5:45 in the morning for delivery, shift 6 AM. But there's no natural light in the warehouse because it was underneath the store. So, it's only lit by fluorescent lighting. Now, it couldn't have been anybody in there because obviously it's locked up like, it's an actual store's warehouse. It's physically locked up. You have to go in every day and unlock it. There wouldn't be any hiding places in there. Somebody wouldn't be able to hide down there and live down there. But you'd constantly get weird stuff. I don't think werewolves are real though, Peach, but if you want to believe in werewolves, feel free to believe in them. Alright, okay, yeah, Jacob. Yeah, I've seen Room 1408, it's the Stephen King one, isn't it? That's interesting, there's lots of weird, you get like the, what do they call it, cryptozoology, don't you? You get like those sort of things. You also get the weird things like the Madgasser Maltoon or Maldoon or whatever it was. My favourite horror movie is Della Morte dell'Amore, which is an Italian sort of dark comedy horror. There isn't there actually, Peach, some sort of real kind of hemoglobin kind of infection people can get? It obviously doesn't turn them into vampires, but I think there is like it's not rabies, but there is something like that can make people go a bit crazy. So it's like one of the things where I think some of the vampire mythology was based off of this illness, but it's not, Most surreal thing that happened to me, I don't know, because I was saying a lot of the creepy stuff was, when I worked at Argos and there was all the sort of weird shit we had going on there. I'd have to have a think. But other people, I'd like to tell their stories in the chat as well, because that would keep it a bit more interactive and interesting. Just a flesh wound. I believe aliens must exist because of how big the galaxy actually is, but I doubt they've come into contact with us yet, because I'm sure we'd know about it, or they'd have invaded us by now, or whatever. Depends how much weight you're putting in it, Game Boy, and how far you want it to stretch. I don't know, Robert, there's lots of ghost stories, aren't there, involving certain, like, airfields and things like that, where people were killed. Like bombings and things like that, where they think the ghosts of, like, night watchmen and things like that still haunt the places. But I don't know if individual objects can be haunted. But saying that, have you heard of Robert the Doll? Because if you have, I think it's Robert the Doll, isn't it? Let me Google it. Robert the Doll. Yeah, Robert the Doll. Google Robert the Doll. Go and look him up. I'll see if I can get a picture of him and put him in the stream, because Robert the Doll was a bit creepy. I'll get the Wikipedia picture up of Robert the Doll, because that's probably not copyright bound. Right, Robert the Doll. Let me put him in the chat. Because Robert the Doll is supposedly a haunted doll that moves around in both the museum he's in now and the old house he used to be in. So, ooh, he's a bit big on there. Let's stretch him down a bit. He's going to be in colour compared to the stream, because the black and white overlay's done in the what's it called program, not the thing. Let's just shrink him down a bit more. Right, so that's Robert the Doll. And Robert the Doll is supposedly a haunted I'm using call sign is it a Logitech C920 or something? I've said a few times what it is on previous videos. Yeah, but I think the Annabelle thing is based off of Robert the Doll, because Robert the Doll was like the original sort of haunted doll thing that started a lot of this craze sort of thing off. But so basically what Robert the Doll was, or still is, because it still exists, was this guy's doll that was apparently, you know, haunted. And often people would say they'd look at the house, you know, from the outside, and the doll would be sat in different windows looking out at people. And apparently they get lots of weird activity in the room in the museum that the doll is now stored in. Why would you need a permission to take a picture of Robert the Doll? What, does Robert not like it if you take a picture of him? Have I cursed all of you now by putting Robert the Doll on the screen? Oh, is that the one that they did all the Annabelle films from, though? But, yeah, I don't know, because that was the thing with, what's their names, isn't it? Can't think of the name of them now, but they were the two famous, like, parapsychologists, or whatever they were. And they were always like, oh, it's the demons that are causing this haunting. Now, they could very well mistake sleep paralysis for alien abduction, but yeah, there's some really creepy sleep paralysis stories, aren't there, where somebody like wakes up and they can't move and there's like a shadow staring at them, or there's like a hag on their chest, or like demons sucking the air out of them and stuff like that. I don't know, random, you'd have to look it up. Then who was Baby Monitor? No, I've not heard of that T-55, but sounds interesting. Ed and Lorraine Warren, yet you're completely right. What Exorcist? The original, but I've not seen it in years, but there's quite a lot of different exorcism films. Oh, I'm glad you've stopped having it then, Beeman, because it's not a good thing, is it? I thought it was Elaine Warren, wasn't it, that died recently? I thought Ed Warren died a while ago, but it was Elaine Warren that... or Lorraine Warren that died more recently. I can probably do more spooky videos, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely heard of shadow people, Steve. There's one thing I've seen previously that could have been a shadow person. But I've read and, you know, seen a lot of documentaries on shadow people. But there was one when I was really young, and I looked in the bathroom mirror, not the bathroom that's at this end of the house, the bathroom that's the other end of the house. And I swear for like 2 seconds I saw like a human-sized shadow silhouette thing behind me, you know, and then it just vanished. And it really scared the crap out of me, but I was definitely awake then. But I think Mike might have a... Oh, so it was actually Ed Warren that died recently. I thought it was Lorraine then. No, oh yeah, Lorraine on. Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, I was right then, Mike. Doesn't matter really, but yeah. Because I thought the bloke died a while beforehand. But yeah, Mike has a shadow person story, sort of, that he might want to tell you all. Yeah, I've heard about those, but they think it's probably like a viral kind of video, don't they? That Plague Doctor one, but I think, years ago seen the original one. I've got a Men in Black one. Yeah, I definitely believe in paranormal stuff, but all paranormal means is just stuff outside of the ordinary. It kind of depends how specific you get, because there's a lot of stuff I don't believe in. Then there's stuff I think, if I saw good evidence of it, I could believe in it. And then there's stuff that, has personally happened to me, so I believe in it. But yeah, I've got a Men in Black story, which it could be something completely innocuous, thing. But I've probably told this one to some of you as well before on a stream or whatever. But we were staying at a house near Chesil Beach, and that's in Weymouth. If you don't know the UK, you can look it up on Google Maps. And where we were staying in this house, like renting it for a holiday one, it was a really nice room I was in that looked out over the bay, like down by the beaches. And there's like a big major road down there. And I kept sort of feeling like I was being watched, so I'd look out the window, couldn't see anybody there, I carry on doing what I was doing, look out the window, keep, feeling like being watched, kept looking out the window. Then I spotted this bloke that was like comically hidden behind a sign, like you wouldn't be able to, I'll see if I can demonstrate it. I wouldn't be able to do it standing up, because I'd be too tall, but basically it was like this. I'm just waiting for the webcam to catch up now. Yeah, it was sort of like that, peeking out from behind a road sign. So, what ended up happening is I was looking at this bloke for quite a while, like, why the hell is there a bloke dressed like that standing behind a road sign? And then basically, because I thought it was really weird, because, it was like a 30-odd degree summer day, and this bloke was wearing, like, a suit, basically, and I thought, that looks really weird. So I went to the other room to get the binoculars, and I must have grabbed the binoculars and been back within 30 seconds, like 20 to 30 seconds, and he was completely gone, and there was no way he could have run off that fast. I mean, it could, of course, just be there was some really random bloke in a suit, stood really weirdly by the side of the road, and then, he very quickly walked off somewhere, out of sight, but it was very strange. That was an IKEA chair. Right, I'll see what I missed in the chat while I was telling that story. Right, I'll Google it T55. I hope this isn't anything really dodgy. Is that just a woman with facial disfigurement? Because that's not very funny to laugh at somebody with facial disfigurement, if that's the case. No, is that one of those things, call sign, where people say something in the mirror a bit like the Candyman thing in the film? But there's quite a lot of things like that I've heard. That's interesting, just a flesh wound. Yeah, so you're like seeing a shadow out the corner of your eye quite a lot. It could very well be possible, Jacob, like inherited memories or things like that, but, I really couldn't tell you if that was true or not. So, a cursed painting of the child that if you have it in the house, your house burns down. Do not show the pic in a stream. Is that a dare? Right, let me Google this, Mike. Cursed painting of the child. Is this the one of the crying boy? There's one that also says the hand resist him, also known as the eBay haunted painting. No, you said about it slingshot, but I've not seen any news reports on it. Let me search that call sign rack. Oh, crying boy curse. Curse. On September I'll read it in a spooky voice. On September the 5th, 1985, the British tabloid newspaper The Sun reported that an Essex firefighter claimed that undamaged copies of the painting were frequently found amidst the ruins of burnt houses. By the end of November, belief in the painting's curse was widespread enough that The Sun was organising mass bonfires of the painting sent in by readers. Steve Punt, a British writer and comedian investigating the curse of the crying boy in a BBC Radio 4 production called Punt PI. Although the format of the programme is a comic in nature, Punt researched the history of the crying boy painting. The conclusion reached by the programme following testing at the building research establishment is that prints were treated with varnish containing fire retardant, and the strings holding the painting to the wall would be the first to deteriorate, resulting in the painting lying face down on the floor and thus being protected. Although no explanation was given as to why no other paintings were turning up unscathed, the picture was also mentioned in an episode about curses in the TV series Weird or What in 2012. Oh, interesting. Now, it depends. That might be a bit like a Final Destination thing if you do that, Beeben. What, was that like a guy trying to break in then, Oscar? Draeger M65 is an alright mask. Oh no, Richard, that sounds like horrible curse of Soviet Union. GP5, GP5, GP5. No, I'll look that one up, Steve. I've got a book. It's probably in this room somewhere. Let me have a look for it. I've read it before, but I might reread it again, which is just like a short horror story. If I can see where the book is on my shelf, I'll show it. So just bear with me a moment. But it might be that it's oh yeah, there it is. Oh no, Peach. That sounds like a horrible thing. But yeah, this is actually a fairly good short horror story. But that's a similar thing. It's about a haunted painting. That, you know, tragedy befalls anybody that owns the painting. I'm glad you're enjoying the knife, John. Yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it, Mike? There's lots... I find things about cursed items really interesting. I don't know, I find a lot of paranormal stuff interesting, I guess, because we like to be scared, you know, humans, in a sense. That's why horror films are so popular. But I don't know, I think a particular genre of those, you know, ones about cursed items are some of the best ones. And don't forget to like the stream, everybody, or the ghosts will get you. Does anybody believe that there's creepy hidden stuff in games as well? Because there's lots of interesting ones like channels that like investigate all the urban legends in the Rockstar games. You know, like there's a Bigfoot in the woods, or there's like a chainsaw killer and all that stuff. Or the Mandela effect. Well, the weird one with the Mandela effect, there's one that's actually real from that. So if anybody doesn't know, the Mandela effect is where you think you know about something, or you think something was a certain way, like, you know, something happened on the news, or something happened in a film or a TV show, and loads of other people think the exact same thing, but apparently it didn't happen. And you've reminded me about the one of the, you know, the thing in the Young Ones, and I think Mike will know about this, that there's a creepy guy with really long hair in the Young Ones that appears in the back of the frame in lots of the episodes, but he's never mentioned and nobody ever speaks about him. But he's actually there in a lot of the episodes. Yeah, there's some channels that investigate those urban legends, and even when they don't find anything, I actually just, I don't know, I find it quite satisfying watching a video where somebody drives around with creepy music playing, looking for things in a game. I don't know why. Let me see if I can find a picture of this Young Ones character. Let me just save the image. Actually, I don't think that's a file. It's not like a proper image file. Let's see if right, let me see if I can put this in the stream. Because I'm not sure if it's been put into a weird file format, but I know, sadly I don't think I can actually embed these, but if you search Young Ones creepy character, you'll see what I'm on about. Alright, let me go back to the chat. I don't know actually how to play music through the streams. I'll look into it at some point, but I don't want to get a copyright strike if I do that, because I bet I will, knowing YouTube. Isn't that a Goosebumps book, Slingshot? Can you turn off the lights? Did you mean off the lights? I can see what it looks like with less lighting, but it might just be too dark for the webcam to pick up properly. I've not done a video on it yet, but it's a Czechoslovakian NBC kind of button-up hood that goes over gas masks, apparently. Is that any better? Oh yeah, I've read about that one. It's the thing in Pokemon, isn't it? One of the old Pokemon games that there's a creepy town with creepy music. Yeah, Bermuda Triangle and things like that would certainly be relevant, Rich. It's like any kind of conspiracy theory, ghost stories, urban legends, hauntings, you know, anything like that. Any unexplained mysteries, anything that's vaguely creepy or sinister, you know, a bit supernatural. And that's what I definitely want in this sort of stream. Just to see if we can get a good discussion going. But I've noticed we've had a lot more comments this stream so far. And don't forget to like the stream, everybody. Or else the zombies will get you. I'm trying to think what old... There's like some really creepy glitches in certain games as well. Because I remember when I was playing an old PS1 game, I had like a glitch where I must have fallen through the map, you know. It's just because on like a modern PC game, you could just type in no clip and no clip out the map. But it happened to me obviously when there was a broken bit of ground in the game and I fell through it. And that really creeped me out because I was just running around like this black abyss, you know, with no way out. And like the character, you could fully see the character model because it was a third-person game, but there was just nothing there. I must have spent like, you know, 10 minutes running around not being able to get out. I think objects could be cursed and haunted, like we were saying, Robert, but I don't know if that would be the actual object itself moving on its own, or is it something like poltergeist activity moving the object? See, there's lots of even debate amongst people who believe in this sort of stuff, what could or, you know, what may or may not cause this sort of stuff. Have you ever searched the Hatman random dragon? Let me see if I can put a Hatman picture in the stream. Let me get a picture. You can also talk about horror films on this stream if you want to as well, if that's something you want to chat about. But yeah, the Hatman is this guy. Let's make him a bit bigger. And that's like one of the commonly reported sleep paralysis things, where he turns up in your room at night, you know, just staring at you. Oh, it's a spooky stream, of course I'm going to be putting these pictures up. No, it's definitely not the same thing as Slender Man. Tell you what, the lighting might look terrible, but I just want to see what happens if I flick off the ceiling light. If it looks really terrible, we'll turn the light back on, but this one might get us in the atmosphere a bit more. Yeah, search the Hatman random dragon. I'll get some more shadow people pictures up. It looks like it's going to be quite grainy. Let me just try flicking this light on without the ceiling light on and see what that's like. I reckon it looked better the other way round, didn't it? Sorry about that. Yeah, Alien's a great film. Let me just get some more shadow people pictures up. Just bear with me a moment while I get some of the pictures up. So here's another shadow one. Let's make it a bit smaller because again it's made this image really large. So yeah, that's like what might happen in your room at night if the shadow people come in. Oh, do you mean creepypastas, Victor? I've read a few creepypastas. I know it's like a really big genre of stuff now, but it's something I really ought to start listening to videos of. I just find the problem with creepypastas, or whatever you want to call them, is the quality of them can be all over the place. Some can be like really well written, and others can just be like, oh, and then a monster jumped out. Yeah, people ask me about the SCP stuff all the time. I'm not really into the SCP. It used to be good when it was a lot, you know, less common. I get nightmares every night. Welcome to my world. I wonder if I'll have even worse nightmares tonight, though, after doing the spooky stream. Well, I suppose if you're religious, Simon, you could ask for, you know, whatever sort of religious thing you believe in to help you. Like, apparently a lot of people do say stuff like that, you know, if you pray to Jesus, that helps, or whatever. But if you don't believe in anything like that, I don't actually know what you'd do. It might protect you from the spirits, T55, if the spirits go into the air, but it would not protect you from the ghosts. But it might protect you from the ghost filter. Ooh. I'd say the worst nightmares I've had, just a flesh wound, are ones that seem very realistic, so even upon waking up, I don't know if they were real or not. You know, like, obviously later on you work out they were nightmares, and they didn't really happen. But, you know, it's things like, I was gonna say, like, where you might have a family member trying to kill you, or something like that. I had this one when I must have been like 5 or 6. The first nightmare I can ever remember having is I used to have a bed that was in the bedroom that's the room I film all my videos in at the moment. There's not any beds in there anymore, we just use that room for storage. But that used to be my bedroom when I was a really little kid. And I used to have, some of you people might know what these are, but you know, like, I wouldn't say it's a cot, but it's like where you have, like, a mattress on the floor, or it's on like a little small bed, then you have kind of like planks around it. Would you call it a crib? I suppose it's a bit like a crib, but it wouldn't be what if you set, you know, looks at a picture conventional crib. That's the closest thing I can explain it to. And basically, in the nightmare, I woke up and I was in that room, but then out of the floor, like out of the carpet, this like face came up from the carpet. And like the face was telling me stuff like how it was going to kill me or something like that. And bear in mind, I must have been like 3 or 4 or something at the time. I must have been really young. And this was the first nightmare I can ever remember. And it obviously seemed so realistic because the nightmare was actually taking place in my bedroom, and everything was normal except for the face that came out of the floor. Have you ever looked at the Balmez faces? It's a bit like that. Let me see. Let's get a picture up of the Balmez faces. Just give me a moment and then I'll put the Balmez faces on the stream. Okay, so if you don't know, the Belmez faces, this, a lot of people think this is a hoax now. But it's where these people on the floor of their house kept having faces appear on the concrete. Yeah, that's a lot of the nightmares I have now, Richard, are just real life shit like that, where or it'll be like where I piss off one of my mates and it takes ages to realise that, you know, the thing that happened was in a nightmare, not real life. So that's the Belmez faces. So yeah, apparently on the concrete of the house, on the floor. You know, it's that sort of thing where the faces kept appearing. What really scared me as a kid is there was an episode of some UK mystery thing for kids, and I think it had Neil Buchanan on. Was his name Neil Buchanan, the bloke who used to be on Art Attack? And they had that one about the Belmez faces, but they like redid all of them. You know, like it was reenacted. So you know, it was like an English family in the living room or whatever, rather than it being in Spain. But yeah, that would really creep me out. Like the idea that you're scrubbing at like a creepy looking face on the floor, and then, you know, all of a sudden like another ghostly sort of face just appears on your floor. You know. I don't know if I believe in any cryptids, Steve. There could obviously be animals science hasn't discovered yet. I definitely believe stuff like that, but I don't know if... Do you mean things like Bigfoot? I really don't know, really. I mean, I doubt it. I mean, a lot of that thing, you know, I think would probably have been found by now if they were going to be found. Other sorts of nightmares I had, there was another one I remember really scared me when I was a kid, where I did hear he joined a band, yeah, but yeah, it was Neil Buchanan then. I did that earlier, Nate, but then I couldn't read the comments properly because it's too hard with masks like this on to read the comments. But yeah, another nightmare I had when I was a kid that used to really freak me out was where my dad was trying to kill me, or it was like my dad had an evil twin, or my dad was schizophrenic. Was it? I can't remember who it was. It might be Iron Man Spartan or another one of the people that regularly watches Mike's streams, but he was saying that he found the creepiest episode of Hammer's House of Horror was the one where there was like the identical bloke to the family's dad, but it was the evil bloke that was trying to kill them. And it was a bit like that episode, but obviously I'd never seen that because I was like 5. And it was like, you know, my dad might disappear somewhere, like he'd walk around the house, like the corner of the house, and then this bloke would come out with a knife that was like, you know, my dad, like laughing, trying to stab me. Yes, it helps spread the curse of the haunted stream. I'm sure if my dad was actually going to kill me, he'd have killed me by now. He's had 25 years to do it. Tell you what is a bit creepy. Does it look like there's something reflecting on my face there? I think it's just a light, but where I had my head just then, it looked like there was... See if I can turn my head back in the same angle. It looked like there was like a weird little face on my head, but on my forehead, but I think that was just the way the light's shining off. That's creepy, especially, like I said, I find nightmares a lot creepier if they involve people you actually know or places you actually have been in or whatever. Because if I have a nightmare that's so fantastical, the moment you wake up, you know it's obviously a nightmare. Whereas if you have one that could really have happened, you know, like it's in your place of work, or it was at the school you went to, or it's in your house or your neighbourhood or something like that, that's when, to me, they become a lot creepier. Because it takes me a lot longer to get back to sleep or calm down after I wake up because, you know, they feel like they could have been real. So what, the coat was moving on its own, was it? Weapons and survival? Yeah, I haven't read up too much at doppelgangers, Mike. But yeah, I've heard of like a doppelganger kind of thing. I don't know, Rich. Sadly, it's not in this room, so I can't hold it up to the webcam to see if it's so you don't. Maybe you're both the evil twin, Mike. So that's why you're both all right. The both of you being the evil twin cancels it out. And I should wear the PBF creamy cake, because then I would be breathing in scary asbestos. It's not in my room, Kai, so I can't try it on. Oh, speaking of stuff like that, Jacob, have you heard about the ghost tapes from Vietnam? They're a real thing. It was a CIA psyop. Where they had like these weird ghost sounds on a tape that they played from loudspeakers, saying it was like saying, you know, don't die, don't fight America. I'm not a creepy paster channel though. That's the problem, Simon. There's lots of channels that specialise in that. It's just every now and then I want to do a theme stream, and I thought doing a spooky one would be a good one because there's lots of topics to talk about. Creepiest painting. I'm going to Google creepy paintings. I reckon the ones that are unintentionally creepy, though. You know, like ones where people try and paint something that's not meant to look creepy, and then they just look creepy. If that makes sense, because, you know, the scales are a bit off, or, because if I Google image creepy paintings, most of the ones coming up are, like, things that are obviously drawn on purposely to look creepy. You know. But what I find creepier are just paintings that just look a bit off. There's a version of American Gothic with a GP5 for the bloke's face. Yeah, unfortunately, just searching on Google image creepy paintings, it's all like too try-hard. It's stuff trying to look creepy and it isn't creepy as a result. It's a bit like sometimes when you watch a film that's not a horror film, and then out of nowhere there's a really creepy, weird scene in it. That can end up feeling a lot scarier than an actual horror film because you're not really prepared for it, if that makes sense. Oh, that reminds me, Squatting Slav, have you heard of the Black-Eyed Kids? Because that's another sort of thing like that, where these children approach you asking, like, can they be let into your house, or can they be let into your car, because they need a ride, or they need to wait in the warm, or they need to make a phone call. And the people feel, like, really scared, and they don't know why. And then when they look, they see that the kids have got, like, pitch black eyes, and then they, like, slam the door in their face. That's a good idea. Let me, yeah, search that unintentionally creepy paintings. Yeah, see, to me, that does look a lot creepier. Because there's, like, ones of, like, weird clowns. Again, there's some which are creepy paintings on purpose, like night terror kind of things. Again, lots of pictures of clowns coming up. The recurring theme is clowns. Now, search that, Jacob. I've not heard of that. What, you mean Munch's The Scream? The Screaming Man, do you mean that? That's very strange, isn't it? That there was green children that only ate broad beans, and one of them was fed a normal diet and then died, and then the girl said she came from St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world inhabited by green people. I suppose, yeah, like a lot of folklore, it could be totally made up. It's interesting, isn't it? What do you call Prince Albert in a can? Well, you better let him out. Oh, I ruined that joke, didn't I? But yeah, with Pennywise played by Tim Curry, yeah. Oh, that's a... Richard, I'd recommend that Peach read your comment, because I think Peach would know all about that. I reckon I might go for 2 hours tonight, because Weapon Collector's going to be streaming when I finish. But I reckon, because like the first hour of this has flown by, we're nearly at an hour already. Yeah, I reckon I'll go to 2 hours for this one, because I'm really enjoying this one. Let me search that Foxy the Pirate. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it looks like a nose and the eyes. Oh yeah, that's quite creepy. It's like, yeah, all it is essentially 2 holes in the ceiling, but yeah, from certain angles that does look very creepy, yeah. And speaking of caves, you reminded me of something. So some of you might know where these are from. Yeah, I'll do more spooky streams because this one's going quite well. I'll probably not manage more than 2 hours, Mike, but I think 2 hours would be a good time for this one. But yeah, so for those of you that don't know of these signs, also, just to everybody, keep the chat on topic with spooky stuff. If you're repeatedly asking stuff that's not on topic, you'll probably get time out, I imagine. If Rich, Mike and Peach can make sure everybody's actually chatting about spooky stuff and not asking me random questions on the stream. These signs are in underwater caves, basically, where lots of divers go and drown, because they think, oh, that's a fun idea, let's explore the cave. So that's actually a photo taken underwater. So what I'm going to do now is delete that one, and I'm going to put up the actual template they use for those. So let me just get it up. Right, that should be readable. I've not seen A Descent in ages, but I will have to watch it again. I've got it on DVD. I do like horror films set in bunkers or caves and stuff like that. Yeah, like I said, I've had situations like that, creamy cake. It's really weird, isn't it? Where, you know, people just seem to disappear. Well, there's lots of ways you can die in a cave underwater. You could run out of oxygen. You know, you could get lost, run out of oxygen and drown. Your lights could go out and it's pitch black and you can't find your way out and you could drown. You know, you could smash your head on the rocks in the ceiling and drown. Or, you know, just die from concussion. Another thing is you can kick silt up really easily. And then, you know, you can't see anything and you drown. And again, yeah, if you've not even got your water mixed right or whatever else, you can die from blood poisoning or whatever, or oxygen poisoning from not having the right air mix. And apparently there's horrible stories where people have dived in groups, and when one person's air started running out, they've killed other people to try and take their air tanks. I don't know if I have the top treasure edit saved, but there's an edit of that, Peach, you'd probably like, that says like top treasure here. Or whatever. Stream's going to end at 10 PM UK time, most likely. I'll tell you what, we'll have the spooky, scary skeleton up during the entire stream, shall we? He can sit up here in the corner. There we go. He's going to sit there the entire stream now. Unless I put another picture up on top of him. Right, recommended films about bunkers and caves. Right, there's a film, A Boy Named Gilroy, that you can watch on YouTube for free because the people who made it actually released it as a free film. And I think it's called The Tunnel. And it's got the bloke who played Long John Silver in Black Sails, but it was, you know, like made years before Black Sails, if anybody knows the TV series Black Sails. And it's about, like, a documentary crew investigating, I think it's under Sydney, it might be been another Australian city, I can't remember, but about like disappearances of homeless people in the like underground tunnels, and that's quite a good found footage horror film. Yeah, people keep spamming that in the chat, Robert, we've gone over it before in streams. I would find it really creepy, to be honest, if I went in an old bunker like that. You know, not one that was open to tourists, but just as in, like, you were trespassing in it, like urban exploring, and then you heard other people in there. Yeah, there's a World War II horror film called The Bunker as well, isn't there? Or is that... Or am I thinking of another one? But there's one where they, like, are trapped in a bunker or something, and they keep getting these really weird noises and things coming from the tunnels, like, underneath the bunker. Like it's built onto. And then there's the other one that has Ray Stevenson in about the Nazi zombies. Or is that Outpost, the one he's in? Oh, they're so similar in names, I can't remember. Yeah, there's a few places that have abandoned cities, don't they? I mean, obviously, like Pripyat is the famous one, and that's obviously abandoned because of radiation. But there's a few places in the world that also have really weird abandoned cities, you know, for almost no reason. Like, sometimes it's because there was, like, an environmental disaster nearby that makes them a bit similar to Chernobyl. But sometimes there's just ones that, like, for whatever reason became abandoned. You know, like, because all the jobs dried up in the area and they became ghost towns because of that. And some of those are really creepy. You know, when people go exploring them and they're just, like, wandering around hundreds of houses and, like, shops and, you know, there's just nothing there. But I'm trying to think, aren't there some in the Pacific, I think, that were places that were like Japanese, like fortified islands or something during World War II or something, and some of those are now like that. Yeah, well, that's one of the things we discussed with Bart. Richard was doing like a variation of the cave diving one, but have the Grim Reaper being a surplus seller and the people below wearing like GP5 filters or something. Because I think in a bit of Skyfall, when James Bond's on that island, they filmed that on one of those like abandoned places. No, I've not seen that new Overlord film. And don't forget to like the stream, everybody. Or the vampires will get you, or something else this time. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely believe there's stuff we can't currently explain with science, Foxy Boy. That, you know, some of it can be really creepy, but in the future, you know, there might be scientific stuff that explains it. Because if you think of things like radiation, radio waves, you know, or stuff like that, there's lots of things that are invisible to the human eye or ears or whatever that exist. So, you know, it might be when we get the right monitoring equipment, we can actually, you know, record this stuff. If I remember right, Lemansk is a city in Stalker Clear Sky, isn't it? It's the one where there's the big gun battle near the end. Oh, that was one of my phobias, Peach, when I was a kid. Was going to have my hair cut at the barber's or whatever, and the hairdresser, like, cutting my ears off with the scissors. I mean, it was a good thing I didn't know about Sweeney Todd or anything like that when I was little, but, you know, like, where they just keep cutting bits of my ears off or something. So yeah, it's like that was a phobia I had, that, you know, every time they'd be snipping, they'd cut another bit of my ear off. Not that I've ever had bits of my ear cut off, but, you know, that kind of thing. I've done cleaning videos already, shot zombie on certain masks, unless you mean something different by that. It reminds me of Halloween 3 when he goes, and Happy Halloween, or whatever it is he says, when he puts the mask on him to kill him. Were you replying to somebody, Mike, there? And we've already warned people on this stream, people are going to get timeouts now if they keep talking about stuff that's not related to the spooky stream today. Because it's the spooky stream. Dun dun dun. But yeah, Weapon Collector Mike, were you replying to somebody with that comment? Because it sounds like you're replying to somebody, but I don't know who you were replying to. Well, I think, you know, anything prolonged where you suffer would be bad. I mean, yeah, at the end of it, you're dead, so that doesn't matter, does it? If you're dead, you're dead. But yeah, I think the more drawn out and painful it is, you know, the worse it is. And obviously, yeah, if it's something that, like, crippled you for life or whatever and you survived it and it left you in a really bad state, then that might be bad. Yeah, Ed and Lorraine Warren got brought up earlier. Because we were talking about Robert the doll and people were talking about the Annabelle doll. I suppose that's alright, Alex. You could do like an opposite of Blair Witch, where you go out in the woods and nothing happens. I'm just waiting for more creepy comments to come in and not people asking things that are not on the stream's topic. I really don't know. Like I said, just something drawn out and really painful. You know. Oh, UK customs just steal my stuff now and again. So they don't even check it, they just steal it. Oh, that reminds me of like the creepypasta sort of short creepy story. Alex, have you heard the one where the bloke, there's like a woodsman, he's in the woods and he's really tired. And he finds like an abandoned cabin, so he goes in there and there's a bed, and he's like trying to get to sleep in the bed, and he looks and he sees all these paintings on the wall, or photographs on the wall, and they're all people looking really angrily at him, you know, and it creeps him out, but he falls asleep. And then when he wakes up, there's lots of daylight in the room, and he realises they weren't paintings, they were windows. Sort of reminded me of that. Isn't that a Goosebumps book, Peach? The Haunted Mask, isn't that what happens in that? The girl gets a mask stuck to her face and it won't come off. One of the movies I find scary is Sixten, although I've seen it a lot of times now, so it's not that scary for me. It's called The Legend of Hell House, and it's based off of the book Hell House by Richard Matheson. And that's if you like films like The Haunting, if you want like a slow, really good haunted house story, you know, where it keeps getting more and more intense. That's a really good horror film. It depends what you find scary, because some people find completely different things in horror genre scary, you know. Why does salt water take longer to drown then, out of interest? Sadly, there's none near me, Foxy Boy. There's a couple of videos on my channel with the old sewage works, because not too far from me there's like a derelict sewage works, so we filmed some videos in there before. But most of the derelict buildings around here get knocked down really quickly, just because, you know, they're really valuable to convert into houses, because, you know, they can charge like 500 grand plus if they turn them into houses per house. Right, I might regret searching this, but okay, Kai, I'm going to search that. So I'm not going to try and pronounce her name, but she's the Slipmouth Woman. Okay, I'm not going to laugh at that. Is a malevolent figure appearing in Japanese ghost stories, possibly dating back to the Edo period. While wearing a mask, she would ask people if she's pretty. If you say no, she kills you with scissors. If you say yes, she would take off the mask and ask again. If you say yes again, she'll cut your mouth just like hers. If you say no, she'll cut you in half. But there are some ways to trick her. When she asks, am I pretty, say so-so or you're average. This will confuse her and give you the chance to run away. Never walk home alone, as she will come after you and ask you to please walk home with someone. Bit creepy, isn't it? I like how there's a conversion diagram. Asks, am I pretty? No. Kills you with scissors. Yes. Takes off my sauce. How about now? No. Cuts you in half. Yes. Slits your mouth so it appears like hers. I like how they need a diagram to explain that process to you. Yeah, there's some videos on YouTube shot Zombie of Haunted Mines, but one of the blokes who made a load of them got caught out, didn't he? Because I think he originally did one video that had no trickery in it whatsoever. It was just there was something a bit creepy that happened. And because that one video became a lot more popular than all his other videos, he started, you know, like doing more videos like that, where he'd actually get people to, you know, like shake things in the background, or he'd, you know, in post-processing, put like creepy noises on, and then people track down that the ghost noises in the background were like from sound libraries. Let me search that, so it's The Visit. I'll look it up on IMDb. Oh, is this the one done by M. Night Shyamalan? Oh, it's an M Night Shyamalan film. Sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm laughing at you, but I don't know if I'd find it scary if it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, because, you know, I quite like Signs, though. Saying that, I did like Signs. But a lot of his films, I just think they're total crap, to be honest. Yeah, it's Attack of the Dead Men. We already know Creamy Cake because it's been brought up like 10 times on this stream. Sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm being irritated at you. It's just because it keeps getting mentioned over and over. It starts to annoy me. Well, when there's radiation exposure, there are mutations, but nothing like in Stalker. It's generally just things that, you know, develop horrible tumours and get cancers. Yeah, so you'd be raiding it, would you, Richard? For all the supplies. Speaking of scissors, there was a kind of creepy story a teacher at our primary school told us years and years ago. Could be completely made up, but I can still remember it when you say about scissors. She said, like, they bought this little country house or something, or it was a relative of theirs bought this little country house. And basically, like, they kept having really weird, you know, like, noises during the night and scratching noises and stuff like that. You'd never see anything, but, you know, you'd keep hearing, like, weird noises. And it was freaking them out a bit. And at one point, they were redoing the wallpaper in one of the rooms. And then when they took the wallpaper out, they found, like, a pair of scissors open behind the wallpaper. I'll show you what. So, like, say you have a pair of scissors like this. So they were like that, behind the wallpaper. You know, like in an open position like that. And apparently, you know, they just took them out of it, threw them in the bin, or they put them in a drawer if they were useful. I can't remember which they said they did. And then, you know, they did new wallpaper, and then after that there was no weird scratching noises or anything. I mean, if they were haunted underwater caves, they'd be even worse than non-haunted underwater caves, because they still kill you anyway. Is that if you're, like, sedated for an operation, but you're still, like, aware of them cutting you open? I was saying on one of Weapon Collector's streams, one of the things I find creepiest is, like, the idea that you might be on a surgical table, and there's people, like, operating on you, and you're awake and feeling it. It's a bit like the whole buried alive thing, you know, where you might get cremated or buried, but you're actually still alive. You can't post links in a chat. YouTube removes them. We can't even manually approve them, even myself or mods. They just mark them as spam. Didn't more Americans die in Gettysburg shot zombie than all of the Americans, not Americans, all the Vietnam War put together or something? And, you know, more Americans died in the American Civil War than every other war America's been in put together. I like his username though, he's got a good username there. It's a better one than Mike Hunt, I'll say that. Well, I thought, why not? And people seem to be enjoying it, because we've had more viewers than normal doing one like this. Make sure you like the stream, or the haunted scissors will get you. I don't know, Foxy Boy Gaming, because while the solitude and everything would be horrible, it would be really cool that you could just literally do like the Omega Man thing, you know, and keep getting in sports cars and driving them really fast wherever you wanted, no law, you know. I can see the upside to that. Like, I think in the end the solitude will get you, but, you know, if you had everything that was currently available to you, especially if it wasn't like there was a nuclear war and everything was destroyed, if you could literally, you know, especially if everybody just, say, disappeared rather than, you know, there's like rotting corpses everywhere, you could, you know, just literally go and like, oh, I want that car, I want all the finest foods, you know, I want whatever drugs or alcohol I want, nothing's gonna stop me. So what do they do, Shot Zombie, if they find bones at Gettysburg? Do they try and, like, just rebury them, or what? Do they have to then put them with a grave marker? I actually don't know what would, happen in those sort of scenarios. I don't, like if they uncover war dead on old battlefields, do they like repatriate them or whatever? I think SHMS for Monolith. Yeah, because the thing is, like, in a scenario like that, I think eventually the solitude might get you, and I can imagine somebody committing suicide because they were the last person alive, and going crazy from the solitary confinement. But then also, does that mean all the animals have been wiped out? Because if all the animals haven't been wiped out, you could still have, like, pet dogs, couldn't you, and stuff like that. I'm like one of those weird people that would probably be happier in that sort of scenario, You could have as many pet dogs as you wanted or whatever, and wouldn't have to worry about people. Yeah, geese have little teeth, don't they? I'll have a look about that squatting slab. City of the Devil. Everything coming up isn't related. It's all about like music videos and Anthony LaVey. We're doing a spooky stream, Piplo, where we talk about like ghost stories, mysteries, serial killers, that sort of thing. Oh, in Fallout New Vegas, in the Dead Money DLC, that's what the ghost people are. They're like humans trapped inside NBC suits and gas masks that have gone crazy, if I remember right. And that's literally what they are. They're like people trapped inside suits. Right, I'll search that and see if it comes up with better results. Devil's Town. That's interesting. So the legend is that they're petrified wedding guests. There's a lot of cool things like that, like the old standing stones and all those sort of like druid things, or just weird old like rock formations people say that look like things. I think the older one's more interesting, Peach. Have you seen the original Spearhead from Space one, the John Pertwee one? The original Auton one, where they had the creepy sort of weird masks for the actors to wear. I'd like there to be a couple of horror films like that, where the people make sensible choices, like as a genre-changing type one. I don't know, Game Boy, you'd probably go crazy quite fast if you were trapped in it, but would you starve to death, or does food appear in there, or what? Yeah, it looks awful, doesn't it, Tech Storm? I definitely wouldn't watch it. My favourite horror movie is Della Morte dell'Amore, which is an Italian dark comedy sort of film about zombies. That's typical Richard, isn't it? YouTube deleted your comment explaining YouTube deleting comments. Is that the one that was the inspiration for Silent Hill Shot Zombie? Because I know there's been a few like coal fire kind of things like that. Apparently 10 people still live there from 2010 onwards. Yeah, that's interesting. Yep, you're completely right about that, Mike Oxlong. Well, no, I'm pretty sure the movie is based partially on Dylan Dog, and the bloke who wrote the screenplay for the movie was the bloke who did Dylan Dog. But weirdly enough, Rupert Everett, who plays Delamorte in the film, his likeness was used for the Dylan Dog comics anyway. So it's kind of like a circular thing. It's really weird. Yeah, that's cool, Richard. I don't know if I'll survive another 30 minutes on this stream, just because I'm getting a bit of stomach pain now with my ulcerative colitis, so I might need to take some painkillers and everything before Mike starts his stream. No, I've not heard of that, Dimmy. Let me look it up. I think it's been mentioned a few times on the stream. Don't forget to, oh, that's interesting, yeah. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody, while I'm looking up the Goat Man. Yeah, that's creepy looking. The first picture coming up on Google Images definitely looks like it's a CGI thing, like a fake thing. But yeah, that's sort of interesting. But it's like the Jersey Devil and all those sort of things, isn't it? Like the cryptozoology sort of stuff. Do they have the Grim Reaper on the signs going to that barricade? Because I think they should if they don't. Or even, yeah, that way. Well, if you mean like cryptozoology, yeah, it's like, you know, the don't know what a good way of explaining it is, but you know, like the weird kind of humanoid, you know, things like Bigfoot and that, isn't it? I don't know what the spookiest film I've ever seen is. When I watched Sinister, that made me quite uncomfortable when it was like the snuff films, but when it started going into, oh, there's a demon called Bagul or whatever it was, then it lost all its creepiness to me, because it just looked like there was some sort of like metal band guy that appeared in old videotapes. I don't know, like I said, Legend of Hell House is actually, I find, genuinely quite a creepy film, but I've seen it enough times now that it's not creepy to me at all, because I know where everything happens. If they want to do a SCP movie and they made it, well, sure, but like I said, I'm not really into SCP, so I'm not the best person to ask. Oh, is that the one that Count Dankula did a video on, Kai? Yeah. I might do a GP5 Foxy, but it's not planned yet. That's interesting, Shot Zombie. What? It is a very scary story. If you teach your pug to do a certain salute, You will be arrested in the UK. Yes, very scary. Is that the Native American thing? Dimmy Pop, Skinwalkers? Or is that the Wendigo? Or is that the same thing? Because there's lots of these where, unless I look them up, I'm probably thinking of multiple things in my head and combining them together. Yeah, well, we're doing the grayscale because it's a creepy stream. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody, because we are nearly at 100 likes. Ooh. I've still got some orange squash left. I've got some orange squash left in my mug. Alright, glad you enjoy the videos. There's some creepier filters, like I can put one on, but sometimes this just looks a bit weird, this one. But I didn't want to like hurt people's eyes while they were watching the stream or something like that, but you can have this filter on for a bit if you want this filter on. I'll have to ask Satan Richard if he could help me out with that. No, I'll look that up. Oh wait, yeah, I do know. I didn't know. I thought she had another name. Maybe it's perhaps different. But is she like the mystic? Isn't she? She's like the one that apparently sees the future. I don't believe in any of those mystics. Right, I'll look that up. It says they are naturally occurring, though. That's interesting, though. Yeah, I'll just put on the standard black and white filter. There we go. Well, I would say well done to everybody, because it seems through most of this stream tonight, most people have been keeping it to topic, which is a nice change. Well, I know we don't normally do a topic, but I've actually been enjoying this. I am going to go a bit earlier, though, than 10 PM. I'll probably do another 5 or 10 minutes. It's not albino deer, though. If you read the Wikipedia page, they're actually a very specific breed of deer. Is that similar to like mad cow disease and what's it, Jacobson syndrome, whatever? Or is it a different thing? That's already been mentioned, Dimmy. Yeah, I know the peacock. That's how a peacock does their call, isn't it? Now, I suppose if they only just come and tell you to leave, it's not that bad, is it? Because there's a couple of places people used to urbex around here, but because some of them were former military sites, they were put under different like legislation and you know, some of the other things. Like with some of the sites, if they have security guards, all they can do is really escort you off the premises, you know, and then if you break in again, they can prosecute you because it's like a civil offence. As long as you're not actually like breaking and entering, you know, if you just enter over a fence or, you know, through a gap in the fence, that's fine. But if it's like some of the former military ones in the UK, I think they can do you under a much more serious kind of like criminal offence for like, you know, exploring those. Yeah, that's the one, Mike. Yeah, like there's a spongy thing, doesn't it? No, I've meant to watch that before, Dimmy, and I've never got round to it, but I will at some point. Well, mad cow disease is the one we had in the UK, where they fed like cattle bone meal or whatever it was from other cows that contained bits of like the nerve endings or whatever. So it was basically like they were feeding, you know, cows essentially on a cannibal diet of other cows. And then when those cows went into the meat trade, when they were butchered, there was, you know, the chance it could spread onto people if they ate the meat. I think that's how it happened. It's generally, you know, why I'm one of those people who thinks meat should cost more and it should be very ethically farmed, you know, for the animals' sake and the people's sake eating it. There shouldn't be, you know, all that dodgy shit like feeding animals really bad stuff, because obviously, yeah, that could pass on to a person. If he had a GP5 on, you probably couldn't hear him very much, though, could you? You're probably like, Oh, you get foot and mouth disease, but that's a different thing. That's like a viral thing, isn't it? Which is just like an infection that kills them slowly, so you don't have to like euthanize them. Right, I'll do 5 more minutes. It'll be an hour and 45 long stream. Don't forget to like it, people. We're at 98 likes, so if we could get this up to 100 likes, that would be good. Have you looked up MK Ultra, Brandon? Because some of Project MK Ultra's stuff is pretty creepy. I've covered it a bit on my Fallout video I did recently, but a lot of that is where they did kind of like weird experiments on people by giving them LSD to see if they could, you know, like break information out of them. But it kind of went totally out of control and they started doing really, really unethical things in Project MK Ultra. But there's like there's things that aren't part of MK Ultra, but also like really other weird human experiments the CIA did at points as well, like the ones when they had people infected with syphilis on purpose to see what it did. Cool, look that up. Is that the research facility? That's interesting though, like a big underground sort of bunker complex used for testing. Yeah, good with me, Mike. It gives me 15 minutes to like take some painkillers and everything as well. I'll tell you another thing that I find creepy. Obviously, it's never happened to me, but I've heard a few stories where this has really happened, like, you know, actual news stories, where there's been people living in other people's houses, like, you know, like they've either been living under, like, beds or hiding in wardrobes or something like that, or cupboards. You know, and, like, people would notice now and again, like, there would be food that had been eaten in their kitchen and they couldn't figure it out, and then, like, they'd put a camera and they'd actually find that there was, like, a weird homeless person in their house. That's crazy, isn't it? The base is abandoned, but they leave a nuclear reactor running. Could it have gone into meltdown, or was it designed in a way where that couldn't happen? Yeah, we've talked about Unit 731 a bit before, Dave, on some of the streams, but yeah, Unit 731 is absolutely horrible. But some of the stuff, yeah, like, I find generally all like that kind of like human experimentation is sort of a really like horrible subject, but it can be quite interesting, but you know, a horrible subject. Well, I'm assuming if it still had fuel rods or something in it, it would keep going, wouldn't it? What, you don't need to go to sleep. Let me search that. Go to sleep picture. There's one of like a creepy face, but it's not very creepy. There's another one of a different creepy face that's not very creepy. I mean, they can't really live inside the wall itself, can they? I'd say a 22 long rifle, creamy cake, if I could get one with lots of ammunition, just because it would be a lightweight rifle that you could carry easy. I suppose if you wanted a military one, like a 5.56 one, like an AR-15 or whatever. Yeah, so were things using the power source from it then? That's strange, isn't it, though? I want to rewatch John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness now, talking about homeless people. Have you heard Dimmy Pop we were talking about earlier, Robert the Doll? If you've not heard of Robert the Doll, look that up, because that's a bit similar to your story. But they had a lot of the nuclear stuff being assembled under guard, didn't they? Or do you mean like people being irradiated building them? Because I know a lot of them were built obviously on secure, like, essentially production sites for nuclear warheads. Okay, it must have been very thick walls then. That would never happen in this house. If he was in my walls, he'd be going, you'd just suddenly see blood spray out the wall and I'd be drilling into the wall to put a raw plug in to put something on the wall behind me. Right, see you, Richard. My stream's just about to end anyway. Yeah, the buzzer radio, it's a number station, wasn't it, that went brrr, well, not brrr, but yeah, it was the one that kept doing the buzzing noise. I think I've seen some most haunted things, Victor, about haunted RAF things. Anyway, the reactor was undamaged, typical. Right, anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off now because I need to go take some medication. But I will be on Weapon Collector's stream when he starts that in 15 minutes. So if you're not subscribed to Weapon Collector, give him a subscribe. Don't forget to like the stream on your way out if you haven't liked it so far. And don't forget, if you want to support the channel, you can get weapons and stuff, 93 themed merchandise from the Teespring link below. But I hope you enjoyed the theme stream. I certainly enjoyed doing the theme stream. The time went quite quickly tonight. Yeah, Dunwich Borers, that's the one where you get the special sword, isn't it? It's like the mine, with the ghouls in it, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, thanks for being on, everybody. This was an enjoyable stream, so see ya.